Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And today we're going to talk about how to move past or how to move beyond motivation. So stay tuned and we'll be right back in just a second. All right, good morning, everybody. So today is Wednesday. It's May 10th. It's in the morning. Many of us are either at work already or getting started for the day. I happen to live in California, so it's for a lot of us, it's probably the start of the commute time. But if you're watching this recorded or live, either way, I'm going to present some value. So, have you begun many mornings or thought about things in days where you wanted to start a project, you wanted to add something, get a new career, add a new task, maybe a new asset to yourself, a tool, so to speak? Well, we get motivated by these thoughts of curiosity. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about: how to move past the curiosity and the beginning frustrations. A lot of times, motivation is something that is very short lived. But if you're really persistent and really focused, here's the key: moving beyond motivation goes to inspiration, or being inspirational. A lot of our works in our dailies to get better at something knows that we don't want to live with a certain thing in our lives that just doesn't work for us. How many times do what you do has started out in motivation and then you feel defeated because you didn't really quite get somewhere or go somewhere? So we're going to do a little bit of I'll do a little bit of reading of what Brian Holiday said in his Daily Stoic on page 144 of his book. So here you go, Daily Stoic. He says, he quotes Seneca from saying in Moral Letters, "Let us produce some bold act of our own and join the ranks of the most emulated." Ryan goes on to explain the quote. He basically says about Seneca. He says it was a common in Greek and Roman times, just as now, for politicians to pander their audience. They would lavish effusive praise on the crowd, on the country, inspiring the military victories of the past. And how many times have you heard a political candidate say, "This is the greatest country in the historical world"? As an orator, Demanthes pointed out that we gladly sit for hours to hear a speaker who stands in front of us so famously and sacred in front of a sacred landmark or platform and praise our ancestors, describing their exploits and emulating their trophies. But see, Ryan also adds something here, really key. He says, "But what does flattery accomplish? Nothing worse than admiration of a shiny accolades that distracts us from their true purpose." Also, Demanthes explains it betrays a very ancestors who inspire us. He concludes that his speech to Athenians people with words that Seneca would later echo and still resound centuries later. Reflect then. He said that the more that your ancestors set up your trophies, not that you gaze at them in wonder, but that you may also emulate to the virtues of men who set them up. The same goes for the quotes in this book and for other inspiring words that you might hear. Don't just admire them, use them, follow them for an example. So the Stoic question of the day is, what bold things can I do today? Now, Ryan pointed out a couple of good things. We can actually relate a lot to what's actually going on, right? For example, how many times have you heard a politician literally say, "This country is going to hell. We need to go back again. Make America great again"? Interesting, right? These are very powerful and persuasive words. And we've heard many different politicians, anywhere from Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, people who've pandered a lot of problems. Now, I'm not favoring one more from the other, but Matter of fact, I posted something on Clapper yesterday, and I said the best way to counter someone who invites you to a political conversation is first listen to what they're saying, second, figure out what they're trying to persuade you on, and third, watch for the key signals of smoke and mirrors, right? These are critical things that I talked about. And the best way is, like, for example, I use the example, well, someone says, well, this president has passed more bills than the past two presidents in recent times. Interesting. But we've heard this before. For those who do follow history and those who actually evaluate what's actually being said, is it really showing the efforts that they can do better, or the point is going to land to be persuasive? That your misunderstanding is showing you weaker? No, it doesn't. My quote in on my post on Clapper basically said this: really? You seem to be bragging about what this person has done. However, can you tell me about many of the bills that they've passed, right? Many of the political bills that have passed that are signed into law that actually work and what they say. And with a huge viewing response and a lot of likes, people voiced out their opinion. They basically said many of these senators and congressmen don't even read the bills that they sign. Many of the American citizens don't truly understand what laws are being passed until they violate their interests or their civil rights or their right to be a human being. So what he's saying is, don't just be fooled, right? Don't be just fooled by persuasive accolades. Don't be persuaded on monuments, wars. How many times has a politician predicated their campaign on veterans? Happens all the time, but they misrepresent veterans. And it's even harder to respect these politicians when they talk about veterans when they never served themselves. That gets really sensitive with a lot of vets, and I know this. Being one, knowing many, we don't really care for those kinds of chats. But see, they'll also predicate themselves, well, we need to protect our rights. What are your rights? So the question is, what bold things can I do today about those kinds of decisions? How can I move beyond motivation? That's right. That's really the premise of this talk. The hype of motivation is like a firecracker. It's exciting, or like a firework, poof, like on the 4th of July. It's pretty, it's short-lived, but you got to move the needle beyond just the pretty. Are you prepared for the journey? Now, a lot of the things that we do in life do come with a cost. They come with some serious work, some investment, and you just got to understand that. That's really tough for many of us. How many of you quit just as you got started? I've seen it a lot. I've done it. And then we blame, here's the most curious thing, the most keen thing that I could say. Many of us quit. That's right. Many of us quit in the beginning. We quit in the beginning because we feel we're not qualified enough. We're not smart enough. Whatever the excuse may be, you'll find a reason to stop before you really get going. Isn't that kind of sad? And then we peddle these things like, hey, what happened to that interest? Oh man, it just didn't work out. No, you quit most of the time. But let's get to from being inspired by motivation to being inspirational. How many things have you accomplished that were the toughest things in your life? You had to make a bold choice and say, I'm going to fricking go for it, right? Hey, Gina, good to see you, my friend. How many times have you quit at first, but then you're like, nope, I'm going to pick up where I left and just do the hard work and go and do it? People ask about podcasting. How do you able to speak so easy? It's not easy. I make it look easy. The Stoics, you know, they talk about this all the time. Make it look easy by mastering your practices. That's really the key. You keep doing over and over. Like I can't tell you how many content creators, as example, I've met who are like, I just don't feel comfortable in front of the camera. That's fine. But how much practice did you put into it? How much time did you invest your mindset, your body into the action? Say, nope, no matter what, I'm going to do this. It's going to cost me. It's going to be tough. Oh, well, but there's a reason. I'm driven. The inspirational movement of yourself moves over that hump. What's on the other side? Like for me, I can remember when I was a kid and I wanted to be an Olympic champion. My idol was Edwin Moses in the 1984 games. I wanted to be a hurdler. I remember my freshman year in high school, my cross country coach, who was the track coach, he basically says, you're a distance runner. You're not going to be a hurdler. And I stood up to my coach and I told my coach, I said, you know what, Coach Baker, I want to do this. I really want to do this. You know what he said? All right, Jason, if you really want to do it, are you prepared for the work? It's not like running long distance. I said, I didn't care. From the moment that I took that thought and said, you know what? I'm going to show him I can do it. I was the only person who had signed up for the hurdles at that time on his team. He had no hurdlers. Tried to get sprinters, but they weren't interested. They're like, nah, forget all that. Within weeks, I had other guys joining me because they saw what I was doing. I was having fun. What better way to me in track and field? You could run a little bit, jump over something, and then keep running a little bit. That was the real test of strength to me. But if I listened to my doubt, which said, do you really think you can do this? If I had listened and not just said, let's learn how to do this and push ourselves. I wasn't the fastest guy at first. But because I loved it, because I found an enjoyment about something, I was fully inspired and I inspired others. And that's the thing. A lot of us want that. We see it like, oh yeah, I'm going to motivate it. Like the one thing I'm kind of motivated to do, like many of my colleagues, they're doing the Amazon influencer program. I've been struggling how to get that started. Seems so simple. The instructions are right there. Right. But I also have a profession. I'm doing other things. Then it's like, what is in my priority list? Is it going to be continuing on a shelf? Well, my answer to that was work on it a little by little. That's right. Work on it a little by little. Anything that's worth to you beyond motivation means that you're going to have to take the time to invest. Take the time to invest, go after it and say, screw it. No matter what it costs in the meantime, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to kill it. I'm going to do it as best I can. And I'm going to continue to practice. And that's the key to get good at anything, to be really good, like at speaking or even being online, looking in the camera. It took a lot of rehearsal. Think about that. It took a lot of rehearsal. Like what I would tell content creators, look in the mirror, or if you're going to speak in front of work, in front of people, look in the mirror, practice in the mirror, be proud of your presence, build the confidence, rehearse it over and over and over again. And the more that you do it, you'll begin to convince yourself that the fear doesn't really need to stand. Being bold does take a lot of internal courage, but it's what's the result on the other side? And this is the other thing I noticed matter of fact, I was talking to a friend last night about this, and they were saying when people introduce themselves, they introduce their traumas to make them empathetic and lower. Don't hurt me if I show you what my deficits are. And I'm like, screw that. No, I'm not going to introduce you to what weaknesses. You'll either figure them out or you won't. The only thing you need to know is the best that I got for you, right? So I encourage people to really defy themselves. There's going to be things that you don't know, and that's okay. When we don't know something, that gives us the platform to be curious, to go forward and do something about it. And that's the key, is when we're curious enough to be like, I'm going to keep going. I'm inspired. I'm more than motivated. I know that it's just a few things away, maybe a little time, maybe a few days, a week, whatever it is in the movement of what you're doing. So my final encouragement as I get ready to close this show, and I want you all to think, Think about those difficult things that you put off that really would benefit you. How many times have you said, well, I'm going to start a savings plan. I'm going to look into a trust. I'm going to look into getting financially literate. And yet you'll still scroll through your phone. Doot, 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 TikTok. Doot, let me stop. Like, doot, doot, doot. You just swiping constantly when you can invest 5 minutes at a time reading something, reading the beginning of how do I start financial wealth? How do I start building my integrity? How do I build self-confidence where I don't really feel, because I feel like a lot of people, and no disrespect, a lot of people will say, I'm introverted. I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, well, okay. If I don't know what introvert means and I have to ask you what it means, well, I know what it means, but I'm just saying, if I were the average Joe, what does that mean? Again, it's an emotional leverage. Stop leveraging your emotions on people's, you know, on their subjections, on their willingness to accept you. They'll accept you either way. It's just what qualifies to their attention, and for how long, don't know. You don't get control of that. You just control what comes out of your mouth, what comes into your mind and through these ears. You choose how you react to it. So go forward with today. If you find something, I'm motivated to go to the gym. Okay, don't wait till Monday. Guess what? If you find that thought and you need to exercise, get to it right away. If you say, I need to become a better reader, pick up a book, read 5-10 minutes a day. That's all you got to do. I became a better reader over time. I've read like 52 books last year. I'm going after 72. You know, I'm about 30 books in. 30 books of study. Even books I've already read, I continue to read them over, you know? And here's the thing that reading does for you. And here's some bonus material. Reading actually increases your vocabulary, your discernment, and your patience. Believe it or not, reading teaches you that. But so many of us want the video. We want the movie. Give me the explanation. And we don't get that. We get people's interpretation of the reading. Yes, I agree with you. Reading is fundamental, Gina, and they tell kids that. But the thing is what reading, it develops in the mind your own imagination of what you believe it means, what you understand. So when some politician or businessman is trying to persuade you, buy this thing or vote for that bill, right? Vote for this because they're trying to take away your rights. No, get this shot or else. How many times you heard that? How many people and families did you see divided within COVID? It's happened. No joke. Reading expands your brain function. Absolutely. It totally does. So my encouragement of the day, thought-provoking thought of the day is defy yourself. And when you get frustrated beyond your motivation, keep going, push forward, take some time. How many of us you said, well, wait, can you tell I don't read? I don't know. Do you really want me to answer that?
No, Gina, you don't get that one on Live Air. Sorry.
Yeah, we can all have fun. But the thing is, look, a lot of us are motivated to do better in life. But it's the works that follow up. And the more that you work at something, you become inspired beyond motivation. Then you become inspirational. And others look at what you're doing different. See, in the beginning of anything, you're going to get a lot of doubters. That's a granted. People who don't know will doubt you first. The closest people near you, they will doubt you, right? This is not something none of us have not experienced before. The closest people to you will give doubt in some fashion, shape, or form. But it's your curiosity that carries you over. Well, that's all the time that I have for Rise and Grind. If you want to check this out on YouTube, go look up 72 the Architect. And today's show is Rise and Grind with how to move beyond motivation. And just a quick hello, J-Dubs, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming by my live. I definitely appreciate all those who actually have come by my live on Clapper. That's right. I'm on Clapper. 3 days a week, making Rise and Grind between the hours of 7 to 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that means for you East Coasters, 10:30, you know, or 11, something like that. In between those hours, I come on. So to give you a dose of just not motivation, but actually inspire you to really do something and take actions. Don't just squabble your time talking to people. Think, believe, and do. Well, I'll see y'all later. I hope you all have a great day. Oh, it says I am gearing up for a meeting with the NBA today. Nice. Props to you, man. Props to you. Anyhow, that's all the show that I got for today. I'm probably on Clapper. I'm going to do what I call the after party Rise and Grind. So if you want to talk and you're on Clapper, you're all welcome. All right. Y'all take care. Let's get it.